Well, from Bayonne all the way to SmackDown. They were in Little Rock, weren't they? Or somewhere in Arkansas. I guess that they had to be in Little Rock. There's nowhere else in Arkansas. Nevertheless, where was Raw, now that I think about it?
Oh, I don't know. I was taking your word for it. I'm guessing you were just making that up. It seemed logical.
I think they were there. Nevertheless, I remember Little Rock somewhere lately. Oh, Little Rock, one of my better towns. I remember we were on the Orpheum circuit. Nevertheless, I'm making up some shit because there's not that much to talk to. See, here are the different marketing strategies. On AEW television, they get you to watch because you can't believe the ridiculousness, the nonsensicalness, and the stupidity that's going on every second, whereas on Raw, it's 3 hours and it takes 15 minutes for somebody to walk to the fucking ring. So they're opposite ends of the spectrum, certainly. So the Raw program for, did I say SmackDown earlier?
I don't think so. Did you?
I don't know. SmackDown, Raw, whatever it is. Another one of these programs. Raw for April 17th. I told you I was feeling mentally frustrated. The Usos, Solo, and Paulo come out, and there's lots of milking, and then Paul starts speaking. And music plays, and here comes the Judgment Day. And they do the big face-off. And they did a face-off for quite a while. And as a matter of fact, I like the little thing they did where Rhea and Solo kept eyeballing each other, and Paul reaches over and switches places with Solo and one of the Usos. And then Ripley switches places with Finn, so they'll still be staring at each other. But they've made a short-term deal, apparently. Paul mentioned that short term about 4 or 5 times. Says if there's a heaven, none of us are getting into it, but we're going to make a short-term deal, or we have made one. The Usos didn't know about this because Roman made it with the Judgment Day, because Roman didn't want anybody to know besides Solo. And obviously there's another loose end with the Bloodline story, but Paul said that Finn Balor wasn't particularly all good with the deal, so they've got that going with them. But basically, Solo's going to deal with Rey Mysterio, the Rey Mysterio problem, and Judgment Day is going to fix Sammy and Owens and Riddle. And that's the arrangement that they've made. And Paul did the whole thing, and it took a while because, did we mention, it's a 3-hour program, and nobody gets in a hurry. That's another thing. You asked me, what did I learn from? Well, I learned this before I went to work for the WWF, but it was still applicable and possibly even more adhered to than in the days of WCW or Crockett. Your television time is valuable. You know, I mean, maybe now they don't consider it valuable because they've got so much of it. But if we wasted the time in those days that they waste now, Vince would have been screaming, do something, get to it, get to action, get to point, get to something. And then Paul, at the end of this thing, actually introduced Rey Mysterio, and here he is, Rey Mysterio, and he comes out and makes his entrance, and we go to the break so that when we come back on the other side, we can see Rey versus Solo. But is that the first time you can remember that the heel manager actually introduced the babyface opponent?
Makes sense, because I think Heyman was also the first one I saw a heel manager pitched a commercial. Remember one time he was in the middle of the ring with like Roman Reigns on SmackDown. He's like, and we'll be right back after this. And it went to commercial. I like, you know what? It went on too long, but everything on this show does. At least this was intriguing. Not a fan of Balor with the Judgment Day. I think it becomes more and more obvious that there's something there, especially Priest, who's really stepped it up. He seems more and more like a top guy lately. It's the way he's been dressing, the way he's been acting. Rhea has never seemed like more of a star, and she's great. And Dominic's the perfect little shit heel. There was so much intrigue about them and the Usos and Solo squaring off. They need to do something new with them. So it's intriguing knowing that nothing ever stops at the end of the episode to think what could be coming in the future between potentially the Bloodline, whatever that is, and the Judgment Day, if anything.
Potentially, allegedly. But anyway, then we get the match. 17 minutes into the program, the bell rings to start the first match, and it's Rey Mysterio against Solo Sikoa. And Solo mostly beats Rey up for about 4 minutes or so, and then they both take a bump over the top rope, and that's the sign we go to the break. It's the pattern. And we come back. Heat on Mysterio. Within a minute, he's making a comeback. Solo hits a big Samoan drop out of nowhere, gets a 2 count, but then Rey comes back later on, hits a 619 and a splash, gets a 2 count. And he goes for another 619. Here's the Usos, but the Lucha suits jump them. It's the same people. They have a fight on the floor. Rey hits the 619 again, but misses a splash, and Solo hits the spike, 1, 2, 3. And Solo wins, and then the heels get more heat. And Solo spikes everybody, and the Usos give Rey the 1D. So it's the same people involved doing the same shit. You can't shoot an angle at the end of every match, or there's no angles because it's just commonplace. And this show, people come out and talk. Some combination of the people talking have a match. The match is by the numbers, usually interrupted by a commercial break very quickly, has a cheap finish to get out of it, and then everybody fights again. Am I overstating this?
Well, we would see a lot of these groups again later on in the show, and not all these groups always interact with one another, so there's some uniqueness there because of that.
In the back.
And you know what? They're about to do the draft. One other thing. They're about to do the draft, yet right now everyone's on both shows.
Yeah, I don't know what the...
Right? The LWO's now on both shows. Everyone's on both shows.
So if they do the soft brand split that they're floating in AEW, soft brand split, that's because they got a soft roster, then how are we going to tell the difference there either? Because they don't have enough guys to fucking not have everybody on their shows, and the WWE does, but they don't use the majority of people that they have. And some of them they shouldn't use. As I mentioned in the back, Adam Pearce back there having to suffer the presence of Model Girl, Fat Otis, and Shoosh Boy. And if I was the USA Network, I think I would have a serious talk about the money I was paying just for segments like this. What is this for? Who would possibly give a shit about this silliness?
It's great shit.
And these are grown men. Otis doesn't believe he's a model. This model girl isn't a model girl. Shoosh Boy is Shoosh Boy. None of this. And then we go to Bianca Belair against Kai of Kai and Sky. They went 2 minutes to the break. They came back and went 3 more minutes. Bianca won. That's as detailed as I can get. Did you see the Bronson Reed package?
I did. The recap of last week's match, you mean?
Well, and in his little statement that he made and the action highlights of him.
Yes. Yes, I watched that.
So you know what his mother calls him.
Oh, I do not. You know what? Actually, I don't know what he said there. No.
Then you don't know what I'm talking. They did a package. Maybe you just glossed over it.
I was fast forwarding a lot.
Okay. Well, yes. Last week, Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley got in a big ham-fisted Donnybrook and ended up getting counted out and had a big fight. Well, they showed some footage of that, but also there was a package of Bronson Reed and the action highlights of him doing all that stuff that he can do with that big frame and, massive blah, blah, blah. But he revealed in it that he's really a nice guy. And as a matter of fact, that's what his mother used to call him, Mr. Nice Guy. So now they have set up, and I wrote in big capital letters, Jesus H. Christ. Bronson Reed's new gimmick is going to be that his mother called him Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr.
So
Nice.
now,
He's a heel,
Mr. Nice
right?
Guy. Yes.
Okay.
And he's going to be an underneath heel, apparently, for the rest of his life. Let's get to 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, top of the hour. On the other program this week, we got unknowns, but in this case, we get Cody Rhodes, entrance, dressed to fight. gets to the ring, calls out Brock Lesnar. And instead of getting Brock, we get Adam Pearce. We can't let this happen. Cody, you're not medically cleared. I know how you're feeling, but please leave the ring. Cody says, okay, I'll leave the ring. He gets out of the ring. He pulls a chair out from under the ring. He gets back in. And Pearce says, all right, I got to call security. And here comes security in looking scared to death. Why? Do they get... I know they want guys that can take a bump, so they get miscellaneous, straggly-looking job guys from some wrestling school, but they look like miscellaneous, scraggly job guys from some wrestling school. You wouldn't take these guys seriously as security. They're dressed in generic outfits, and there's always 20 of them, which makes it somewhat ridiculous. Having said all of that, Cody did the best with this that anybody has done in terms of beating up the security because he can't get to the guy he wants to beat up. He made it interesting. But that's what happens. Security comes in looking scared to death with their arms outstretched like, oh, please, don't hurt us, all 20 of us. And then Brock comes out and Pearce says, Brock is taunting Cody to come to the entranceway and fight him. But he can't get through the security. And Pearce tells Cody that I'll make the match for Backlash, you versus Brock Lesnar, but you just can't do this now. And Cody beats up all the security. But they manage to hold him so that Brock can laugh and walk out. And then Cody top ropes everybody and cuts the promo. So I grew up around cowboys, and Brock, you're not a cowboy, you're a coward. Good point to end on. Cody didn't look as much like a sap as the other people that are put in this position, and he arranged it with the security guys to where that it looked halfway palatable. It's a bit far-fetched because there's so many of them. But we advertised, or were advertised too, that Cody was going to be face-to-face in the ring with Brock Lesnar and have it out, and what we got was a little, a little bait and switch. But at least there was something going on, and it's stars. So I wasn't completely opposed to it. What are your thoughts?
This was ridiculous. The last line of the promo was the best part. I grew up around cowboys. I knew Jack Kennedy. You are no Jack Kennedy.
You, Senator, are no Jack Kennedy.
That's what this was. That was the best part of this. But Cody beating up 15 security guys who don't look like security guys.
Yeah.
And it went on for a while. Like, you saying he beat them up is one thing. He's beating them up, it seemed like, for minutes at a time while Brock's just standing there.
Yeah.
Dressed like Jeff Jarrett when he debuted in AEW.
And nobody really got even a lucky punch in on Cody. You would have thought with all those guys, somebody could have got one.
Boy, between Brock and Trish, is that the new move? If you're going to be a heel, get a black cowboy hat and a black trench coat and walk out there. That's, I almost think this would have been as effective if Cody just did a really strong promo and then eventually talked to Pearce about the match, as opposed to having Brock come out there just to smile and do nothing, and Cody can't get to him while having this almost AEW Cody-like confrontation with all these security guards. I didn't like it.
Well, and by God, shit on him then.
You have to have your own independent opinion. You can't go based on what I said. People are going to think you're a parrot.
Well, I've changed my mind. Now, I hated the whole thing.
No, I didn't say that. I want you to have an independent thought.
Well, my independent thought was that it's the same shit that we've seen a lot. He did a better job with it than most, but it was still, as I mentioned, a little much to take. But speaking of a little much to take, we got another confrontation between The Miz and Seth Franklin Rollins. And they did another thing that now has become a thing that happens every week, where the heel will jump the babyface and beat him up, and then the referee will ring the bell to start the match. But I don't understand. What the fuck? When did they think that this was a thing that was done in wrestling? How did this suddenly become... So they go 2 minutes to the break. They come back. They actually got some more time to have a match after the break, but it was Miz. So Seth Franklin Rollins won it. Did I miss anything that would change my perception of anything?
I think his music is over. I think him leading the audience and singing is over. He's very talented in the ring, but I just hate his gimmick so much. And I'm not really feeling a match with him and The Miz right now.
Well, speaking of not feeling things, there was trouble in paradise in the babyface locker room. There was Sammy and Owens and Riddle in the back, and Sammy is pitching to Kevin, hey, let's let Riddle share his ideas for the 6-man tag. And Owens says, hey, just leave the thinking to us. And then, of course, Riddle wants to counteract Solo's spike by taping his toe and calling it the toe bro. But then he says, when Owens is losing his mind of bullshit, he said, no, I'm not serious. And Riddle tried to do a serious promo, said, you think I'm just a moron and I'm going to blah, 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 I'm going to jack around. Well, no, they've done things to me too, and I want to get even with them. I'm not here to be an idiot. Well, too late by about 5 years. But so now we've established that Riddle's going to try to be serious for once.
I thought this was all right. I'm very critical of him usually. I'm not a big fan, but I thought this was pretty good. And the fact that he immediately pointed out that the silly idea was just in fact that, it was all right. Can't complain too much about this.
How come it took him 5 years to get serious about anything?
I don't know. I also think his outfit holds him back from me. I don't know. He's dressed.
Well, yeah, it's the whole visual is ridiculous. He looks, speaks, and dresses like a fucking idiot.
No, I'm pretty sure he speaks like that. Legit. I'm not going to take that away from him. I'm pretty sure that's all him. But yeah, now he's in the main event mix, and obviously they're trying hard.
Well, at any rate, the next match I watched because there was talent involved, and I wanted to see what was going to happen. Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. And remember I said that last week, the whole problem, Lashley and Reed, is two big guys. There was no bumper. There's nobody to make the big, strong guy look big and strong. And conversely, then there's no action because neither guy, if you're having a monster battle, can bump around. In this case, Lashley was the best he's looked in a while, thanks to their booking. He was aggressive. It looked good because Theory can move. And I noted I would have loved to have seen Austin Theory on the roster in 1986 in Jim Crockett Promotions, or 1984 in Mid-South Wrestling, or 1981 in Memphis, or any time in the 70s in Florida. He would have just 1 year of working with talent like that, getting experience every night against different guys. He would have fit in. He would have learned and grown quickly. I think he's a fast learner if he wasn't. Unfortunately, he's tied up in the WWE system and he's learning the WWE style. And we won't really ever know probably how good he could have been with the top talent in the territories on his own, doing his own shit. I think he would have been fantastic. I think he would have fit in. But there's not a ton of guys to work with here if you want to be a wrestler instead of a sports entertainer, and that limits him, and also the fact that the matches are made to be completely unimportant. But nevertheless, they went 3 whole minutes to the break, and before Lashley posted him, and they came back, and Lashley was still kicking his ass. And I'm thinking, well, it's 4 minutes to the top of the hour, so I wonder what their top of the hour business is going to be. So anyway, Lashley went for the hurt lock. Theory bit his fingers and posted him and got on him. And I thought then I'm going to hopefully we'll get to see Randy Orton and Austin Theory. I think those will be tremendous, or those matches. Theory's left-handed and left-footed, and it still works. Anyway, Lashley misses Theory misses a charge into the buckle, and Lashley makes a big comeback right at 10 o'clock. So their 10 o'clock top of the hour is Lashley making a comeback. And he gets a 2 count, and then he gets the hurt lock, and Theory backs him up into the corner, and suddenly Bronson Reed is in the ring from nowhere and splashes both of them in the corner, Theory and fucking Lashley. And in Theory drops and rolls out. You don't see him for a minute. And Reed kicks Lashley out to the floor, splashes him into the post, and they started pouring the fake booze in. And you could tell the people were kind of like, And then Lashley started a comeback and went to get the hurt lock on Reed again. And that's when Theory reappears and drop kicks him and then disappears again. And Reed then hits a Samoan drop and a splash off the top rope and more fake boos. And I don't think the people like this, the people that were watching it, as much as the soundtrack that was being played while it was going on. Do you?
There were various moments in the show, and we'll talk about the Trish Stratus promo in a bit, where I thought they were piping in a lot of stuff, but I couldn't exactly tell. This was another one. I think because of the way Bobby Lashley's been booked it's been months now.
Yeah.
It's hard to invest in him. And Theory, as talented as Lashley is, I think it almost holds Theory back wrestling him again. Didn't we just see this match on TV a few weeks ago?
And it seems like it.
But they're trying to do something with him and Reed, and hopefully that includes not recreating last week's match.
Well, at this point, it was past 10 o'clock, and you know what was calling me, Brian? You know what was whispered in my ear, the voice that I heard resounding throughout my brain?
The raccoon?
No. Raccoons don't speak English. It was my mattress. I was hearing the word helix, helix, helix. You can sleep. Because I was nodding off already with what I was watching. It's past 10 o'clock. It's past my bedtime. Time to lay my weary body down on a helix sleep mattress. And that's exactly what I did. And I came back and I watched the rest of the program the very next morning, refreshed, feeling better, not as mentally frustrated and as tired and burnt and worn out as I had been before, because even when you watch bad wrestling for a living, you can refresh yourself on the platform of the gods, the giant marshmallow in the sky known as a helix sleep mattress.
Platform of the gods. I like that. I never heard that before.
The platform of the gods, because you're up there in the stratosphere. You're floating around on the top of Mount Olympus, and you're there in the beautiful, soft tufts and folds of a fluffy cloud that comes from helix sleep. And there's so many different kinds of these fluffy clouds. There's fluffy clouds for people that sleep on their back or their side or their stomach or upside down. There's fluffy clouds for kids. There's fluffy clouds for fluffy people that are too fat and corpulent and obscenely morbidly obese for normal mattresses.
Jesus, will you be nice?
Sure I will. There's also a mattress for tall people whose feet hang over the end of the bed at most of these joints. And there's also mattresses that cool you down, heat you up, and everything in between. Why, they even have mattresses, well, they'll just rub you with tiny little fingers implanted in the mattress. They'll rub up and down your private parts from one side to the other while you're asleep, and you'll never even know it except for the stain when you wake up in the morning. All these things and many more can happen to you when you're sleeping on a helix sleep mattress. And how, you may ask, do you get to do something like this? How do you qualify? How do you earn the right to sleep on the most comfortable mattress surface in history? And the answer is quite simple. You go to helixsleep.com and you answer some questions. And now this is going to be a tough questioning. They're going to put a spotlight in your eyes. They're going to say, where did you sleep on the night of August 5th? And if you don't have a good answer, they're going to lock you up for 30 years. But once you take that quiz...
Wait, Helix Sleep is going to lock the listeners up for 30 years?
Well, if you admit to any serious crimes during the course of this cross-examination...
So the police will also be involved. It's not just a Helix jail that they maintain.
Yeah, they're going to bring in some authorities. They're going to give you the going over. They're going to know where you've been and what you've done and who you associate with. And once you take that quiz on helixsleep.com, it only takes 2 minutes. It's some very intense questioning for those 2 minutes, but then they'll know exactly what kind of mattress you want and what would be best for you. And then they will send that to your door, along with some people that will bring it in, and then you can go about unboxing it and putting it where you want it. Unless you ask the people to bring it in and put it where you say you like the look of that delivery guy, and you say, hey, come on to my bedroom and unbox my mattress with me. That's perfectly up to you.
These are not the things that should be going through the minds of the listeners when they get their Helix Sleep mattress. You should leave the delivery personnel alone.
Well, no, Helix Sleep does not mess in your intimacy or in your personal life. If you want to hit on the delivery person and have him carry the mattress into your bedroom and potentially test it out, it's up to you.
No, it's not up to you. That's not an offer. That's not something offered by Helix Sleep.
It's up to you, and it's up to the delivery person. It's up to the two consenting adults involved. Helix will not get involved in this. They've sent the mattress. Their hands are clean now.
Ladies and gentlemen, anyone associated with this show, don't proposition them for sex if they're delivering an item to your house.
Well, then nobody associated with the show is going to deliver the item. It's going to be somebody associated with Helix and or the shipping department or service that they use to ship the mattress to you. But if they're over 18 and you're over 18, you could ask them to bump uglies on your brand new mattress. Anyway, Helix also supports.
What happens when like a John Fell orders a mattress? You said, I mean, you're not thinking of this out. Clearly, it's
but John's a married man, so it'd have to be a female delivering the mattress because we know that he's not bi-coastal like that.
We know that.
But nevertheless, Helix supports the military, the first responders, teachers, and students, but only students over the age of 18 if they're going to be having any hanky-panky when they come to the door.
You're not going to be having hanky-panky at the door. Let people deliver. People will be delivering these mattresses.
Close the door. You don't want to do that out in public. Unlike a lot of mattress companies out there, Helix owns its own manufacturing facility. And each mattress is made in the USA by a team of skilled manufacturers who have been sentenced by the court to perform this type of work.
No.
For a certain period of time.
There's no period.
It's just open-ended. They have to do this for the rest of their life.
There are no court orders. That is a promise. Is there any
good behavior parole?
One thing we could promise you is no court orders, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you won't get one, but the people who make it, they've been put there specifically for that. Because
no, they haven't. No.
They're a court-mandated mattress makers.
Who? The Helix Court? The same people that control the Helix jail?
Yes. They've got a whole system. If they get you from start to finish, you ought to see the judge. Anyway, is there anything worse than going to a mattress store and laying down on a mattress that you know hundreds of people have tried out before you, but none of them are still there, just their residue? You don't even get to lay down next to some stranger and possibly get acquainted. Just their residue is there. You don't want to do that. You order these things, they come brand new to your door. Nobody's laid on these things until you and or your delivery personnel break them in. Anyway, right now you can go to helixsleep.com/JCE because they're offering up to 20% off all the mattress orders and 2 free pillows. So you can prop something up under your head or potentially underneath your back. You know, any position you want to be in, you can take these pillows and just jam them under you, and it'll prop you up in a particular location. 20% off and 2 free pillows for our listeners if you go to helixsleep.com/JCE right now. Better sleep starts right now with Helix, or sometimes right after you've had aggressive intimate relations. Then you'll go to sleep. You can do all these things on a Helix mattress, sometimes with people that you know personally.
Hopefully every time with people you know personally, but Helix Sleep may be a good way to go to sleep. Raw may not always be a good way to go to sleep.
Well, we're going back to Raw, aren't we? Trish Stratus in the ring for a promo, taking credit for single-handedly changing the women's division. It was a joke before her, is what she says. Brian, I've never paid attention to Trish Stratus's.
Clearly you haven't.
I've never paid attention to Trish Stratus's promos because she was well before we actually started watching this stuff and talking about it on the air here. Was this it, or was she rusty?
I mean, this is kind of it for heel Trish Stratus. I thought this was an okay promo for what it was.
Again, it's, the lights go down and the dramatic WWE reading starts. She's kind of standing the same way and talking the same way as everybody else does. It reminded me of if somebody was running a training camp and wanted the talent to do an audition promo in the style of WWE. That's what I zoned out. She talked a while and people whatted her a few times and she was finished talking and she walked out. It was a recitation of prepared material. Question is she any better at this ever, or is this where it is?
Well, again, her argument was that, everything started because of her. Everyone should be giving credit to her. She's right in one sense. She was like the first of like the super hot women that wrestling all of a sudden had that started to wrestle and was okay at it. In that way, she's exactly right.
So now okay is the bar that we have to strive for.
Well, she was really good in her time, but you go back and you watch some of those things now, maybe they're a little sloppier than you remember or anything, but she was good, but it is a different world now. Were they piping in booze during the promo?
I don't know. I wish I'd have had a glass. I could have taken a shot or two, might have made this interview go back quicker.
That's not what I meant. Are you looking forward now to, I guess, is she feuding with Lita or, no, she's feuding with Becky?
Yes, because she turned on Becky.
So is Lita gone?
I don't know.
All right.
I guess we'll find out. And Cody did a promo in the back, and apparently they just said, just fill 30 seconds or fill a minute or whatever. He's happy he's wrestling Brock at Backlash is what we got. He was very well spoken, but had nothing to really say. And then Raquel and Liv every week. If we could have seen as much FTR in AEW as we've seen of Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan, well, I'd be ecstatic.
Both shows.
And again, they put poor Raquel on nitrous oxide. I talked about it on the drive-thru. What a look she had. The mean face, the black leather, and now she's a taller version of all their other happy girl wrestlers now. With makeup and a hairdo and smiling. And Raquel and Liv sat at ringside while Cruella and Chelsea fought Candy LaRue and Mia Yim. And the heels won in 3 minutes and then threw water on Liv and Raquel. And left. Did I miss anything?
I missed it too.
Okay, well, the girls segment was over at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and after the commercial breaks, all the plugs, backstage bullshit, and entrances, the main event started at 10:45, so it took them 15 minutes to get one match over and the other match in the ring. And that was the 6-man tag match with the Judgment Day against Sammy and Kevin and Riddle. And again, it by the time they ring the bell, they've got 12 minutes left because they're always going to end up a couple minutes early so we can see what happens and there'll be a little fallout. And they're going to take a break in the middle of that. So we've sat through a 3-hour program to get usually about fucking 9 minutes of the main event on the air. And it was a match. It was a WWE match. And everybody in it's fine. Riddle's whole style is awkward as fuck. Everything he does, whether he's pitching or catching, offense or defense, I wouldn't want to work with him. I don't know who would want to work with this guy unless you studied him for months. You'd never know what the fuck direction anything was coming from. None of it just, I don't know what the fuck. This thing really didn't pick up until Sammy finally made a big comeback and the excitement level picked up because he's quick and he's good. And then Ripley crotched Sammy on the top rope and Dominic hit a frog splash and Owens saved. And then everybody did everything to each other quickly. And then Rhea tripped Sammy again and the referee ejected Ripley. But really, by the time the ejection or rejection happened, they're already going into this finish. Owens hits Finn with a stunner. And then Sammy hit Finn with a kick. And then Riddle hit a cannonball off the top. And they beat Finn. Finn is the designated job guy. If there needs to be one, he's the one to be in the Judgment Day. And they beat him 1, 2, 3. And as soon as they did, here comes Solo and the Usos. And they hit immediately and get more heat. Because, again, it's a match, so naturally the heels have to fucking get heat afterwards in everything. And then music plays, and here comes Rey Mysterio and the Lucha suits in, and they had a big fight, and it was chaos, and that was fairly exciting. Although the crowd during this big fight with all these people started chanting, "We want tables," which means that they've pretty much ruined the fans. Between the what thing in interviews and any time a fight breaks out, people are chanting for furniture instead of the talent involved. They've ruined the fans. The last few minutes of this was very exciting. Leading up to it was nothing wrong with it. It was a WWE match, so it was neither really good nor horribly amateurish. It was there until it was over. It's kind of like a big bowl of oatmeal with no sugar. It's there. You're not really enjoying it, but it's not going to make you sick either.
Sounds like a good description of WWE Raw, as we just saw it.
Well, there you had it. And folks, all I've got to say, to be quite honest with you, all that I have got to say about Monday Night Raw is if you don't want people to know that you are downloading this content, you need to spoof your location. You need to hide where you are. You need to confuse people, make people think that you're over in the British Isles, or maybe you're in Cambodia, or maybe you're in a naval station, a weather station somewhere in Antarctica, but not where you are, because if people find out that behind closed doors and on the internet in the privacy of your own home, you're watching this WWE programming, you could be held up to ridicule and scorn. And the only way that you're going to be able to hide from that is to sign up with ExpressVPN. Now, we've talked about their service before, ladies and gentlemen, how they will come to your home with bandsaws and sawzalls and skill saws and hammers and chisels, and they will get the people that the internet service providers have sent to your home out of your walls. You will not be spied on anymore by these eavesdropping no-good son of a bitches hiding in your walls, your attics, and your crawl spaces, watching what you download on your internet. No more of that with ExpressVPN. People won't be able to tell what you're doing. As a matter of fact, you will be able to hide your location and your activity from everybody, except potentially the FBI.
Yeah, you will still get busted by law enforcement if you do anything stupid. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you're saying is be responsible.
Shot. It's a 50-50 shot. You can get some protection from law enforcement if you sign up with ExpressVPN superficially. They're probably going to track you down at some point either way. But if you want to just get away from the prying eye and the thumb of the man in terms of your internet service providers, then ExpressVPN is the way to go, because it's blazing fast. You know, a lot of these other VPNs slow your connection down to the point where it's not even worth it to connect, because then it's slower than molasses in January, as Mama Cornette used to say. But with ExpressVPN, they don't lag. They don't buffer, either Michael or Bruce. They get straight to the point. It's quick, just like that, quicker than a hiccup. And it couldn't be easier, because all you have to do is open the ExpressVPN app and click one button, and you'll have instant protection across all your devices. Your car will be protected. Your stove in your kitchen will be protected. Your microwave oven, your clock radio next to your bed, all of your devices will be protected from people spying on them. You know, it's terrible, but I understand that several people in Russia were the victim of the KGB. They put a bug in their clock radio, and every morning the clock radio would wake those people up 1 minute earlier every day. So it was such a small increment that you couldn't tell until finally it killed those people, because they were waking up a minute earlier every day until the point where they didn't get any sleep at all. And then they died of sleep deprivation.
What are you talking about?
Well, if these internet service providers get in all of your devices and take over and control
That's not how it
all,
works. And
imagine when they start turning your air conditioning off in the middle of the summer, Or maybe it's the middle of the wintertime and your internet service provider that's in your walls and snooping on you turns your heat off and your whole family freezes to death.
So how exactly would you utilize ExpressVPN to fight that?
Well, ExpressVPN, you click on the app, you open it, you click on the button, and all your devices are protected. Anything you got in your house, it's all protected.
Not anything you have in your house. It has to be something that's
evil, cruel
Wi-Fi.
internet service providers can't take you hostage and control from a remote location somewhere in the Arctic Circle. They can't control all of your machinery in your house. Imagine if they sabotage your toaster. You won't be able to have a fucking sandwich.
You would need a smart toaster for that to be what happened.
ExpressVPN.com/JCE. That's the place you get extra 3 months of ExpressVPN service for free. So that means 3 more months of these nosy, snoopy, overreaching internet service providers not knowing what wholesome family activities you're into on the internet. It's none of their business.
That's right.
If you want to look up Shirley Temple's filmography, they shouldn't know about it.
If you want to look up how to make a Shirley Temple,
they shouldn't know about it. They have no business snooping into your Shirley Temple fandom. So right now, if you'd like sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls on your internet without the internet service provider knowing that you're into sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls, ExpressVPN.com/JCE, 3 extra months of service, absolutely free. You can't live without it. You can't do without it. You got to get on it right now. ExpressVPN.